Episode 7, Heracles Part 2, Chapter 1, Intro.
Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of Hellenic Helpers. If you haven't listened to Part 1 of Heracles' story, you might be a little confused. So I suggest listening to Part 1 first to avoid any possible confusion. Moving on, I will continue with Heracles' quests. Chapter 2, Grab and Go. The 7th task Heracles was given was to bring King Eurystheus the Cretan bull. I'll talk about the Cretan bull in a different episode, but back to Heracles. He went to Crete to get the bull. When he arrived, he wrestled the bull to the ground and brought it back to King Eurystheus. King Eurystheus afterwards let the bull go, and it terrorized people in a city called Marathon. Chapter 3, I would like my flesh to go. For the 8th task, Heracles was told to bring the horses of Diomedes to King Eurystheus. There were a couple of things that King Eurystheus forgot to mention, like the fact that the horses were man-eating. Diomedes of Thrace was sometimes considered a child of Ares. He would feed humans to his horses. Heracles went to capture the horses with his friend Abderus. Heracles cut the chains and gave the horses to Abderus so he could fight Diomedes of Thrace. When Heracles went to fight Diomedes, the horses ate Abderus. Heracles returned from fighting Diomedes to find his friend dead. After finding his second friend dead, Heracles was not having fun. He went back to Diomedes and fed him to the savage horses. When the horses ate their master, their hunger for flesh ceased. With Diomedes gone and the horses calmed, Heracles brought them back to King Eurystheus. He also founded the city of Abdera in honor for his fallen friend. Chapter 4, I Stab You. The 9th task Heracles is given is to get the belt of Queen Hippolyte. She is the ruler of the Amazons. The Amazons are a group of warrior women that didn't interact with men. The belt that Heracles was supposed to get had been a gift from the god Ares. Queen Hippolyte was an amazing fighter, so Ares had given her the belt. King Eurystheus wanted the belt so he could give it to his daughter as a gift. Heracles and his friends knew that if Heracles tried to approach the Amazons, they would attack him. They also knew Heracles wouldn't be able to fight all the warriors at once, so Heracles' friends decided to go with him. When Heracles and his friends arrived, the queen talked to them. Heracles explained why he was there, and the queen offered to give them the belt. Hera didn't like this. She thought it was too easy, so she spread a rumor. She told the Amazons that Heracles was there to take away their queen. When they heard this, they grabbed their weapons and armor. Heracles saw this and knew he was under attack. In a panic, he stabbed Queen Hippolyte and took the belt. Heracles and his friends then fought the Amazonians and sailed back to King Eurystheus. Chapter 5, 3 heads are better than one. The 10th task Heracles was given was to steal the cattle of Geryon. Geryon was a giant with 3 torsos, 3 sets of legs, and 3 heads. It looked like he was made of 3 people all connected at the waist. Geryon also had a dog named Orthus. Orthus had 2 heads and was related to Cerberus, Hades' 3-headed dog. When Heracles arrived on Geryon's island, Geryon and Orthus sensed he was there. Heracles was grabbing cattle and loading them onto his boat when Orthus and Geryon approached. Heracles hit Orthus with his club, and then he shot Geryon with his arrows. With both of them dead, he returned to King Eurystheus. Chapter 6, Shoulder Pain. Heracles was tired and just wanted to get his task done, but because 2 of them hadn't counted to the 10 he was supposed to do, he had to do 2 more. The 11th task that he was given was to get a golden apple from the Hesperides. The Hesperides were the daughters of the Titan Atlas. Atlas had been punished for fighting against the gods in the Titan War. He had been holding up the sky for millennia, which caused severe pain in his shoulders. The problem was Heracles didn't know where the garden of the Hesperides was. He was adventuring when a son of Ares challenged him to a fight. Heracles fought him, but the fight was broken up by a thunderbolt, probably from Zeus. Heracles continued to travel, and eventually he found the god Nereus. Nereus was said to be the old man of the sea. He knew everything about anything. Heracles pinned him down while Nereus tried to squirm away by transforming into different sea creatures, but he failed to get away from the hero. Nereus ended up telling him where the garden was and was let go. While Heracles was traveling, he ran into the giant Antaeus. He was the son of Gaia and Poseidon. Antaeus challenged anyone he came across and added their skulls to a temple to his father. When Heracles was challenged by Antaeus to wrestle, Heracles initially struggled. Eventually, Heracles realized that the only way he would be able to defeat Antaeus was not to let him touch the earth. With Gaia as Antaeus' mother, she was able to protect him in fights. To stop Gaia from protecting her son, he lifted Antaeus off the ground, then squeezed him to death. Heracles traveled on, eventually coming across Prometheus. Prometheus was still being tortured by the eagle sent by Zeus, so Heracles killed the eagle and let Prometheus go. Prometheus then told Heracles that the only way he could get an apple without dying was to get Atlas to grab one for him. Heracles did a bunch of tiny things in between the main 12 tasks, and it would be really challenging to put them in order. The apples of Hesperides had been a wedding gift. Hera had given her husband them, and clearly Hera just loves Heracles so much at this point. Now with Atlas under the sky, he couldn't just ask Atlas to get an apple while still holding the sky. Heracles went to Atlas and convinced him to get the apples while he held the sky. Heracles and Atlas switched places, and Atlas went to go get the apples. If you don't know, holding the sky was very difficult. Atlas returned with the apples, but instead of taking the sky back from Heracles, he told the demigod that he would deliver the apples himself. Heracles agreed to Atlas taking the apples, but before Atlas could give them to King Eurystheus, Heracles wanted to put soft padding on his shoulders so they wouldn't hurt as much. Atlas understood the pain that Heracles was in after supporting the sky for years. He offered to take the weight of the sky temporarily so Heracles could put padding on his shoulders. When Atlas took the sky from Heracles, Heracles grabbed the apples and ran away. The apples belonged to the gods, so King Eurystheus wasn't allowed to keep them. Athena, a goddess, took the apples back to the garden. Chapter 7, Wrestling with Fate. Heracles was almost done with the 12 tasks, and with one left, he really wanted to get it over with. King Eurystheus was really annoyed at Heracles at this point. Heracles had completed all of the tasks he had been given, and even the additional task after the original 10. King Eurystheus wanted Heracles dead, so he gave Heracles a seemingly impossible task. His final task was to capture Cerberus. Cerberus, if you remember, lived in the underworld, a place of death and darkness, so Heracles took precautions. Some stories say he got help from Hermes and Athena, two Olympians that helped him get to the underworld. When Heracles arrived in the underworld, he came across Theseus and Pirithous. Theseus is the hero who had something to do with the Cretan bull from earlier. Pirithous is his best friend. They were trapped in stone chairs and were being tortured by the Furies. Heracles broke Theseus free and went to free Pirithous, but the earth shook and Heracles was forced to leave Pirithous. Heracles then continued with his task and went to Hades. Hades told Heracles that he could take Cerberus, but only if Heracles overpowered the beast without any weapons. Heracles agreed and went to wrestle the triple-headed dog. Heracles grabbed Cerberus, and after some struggle, carried Cerberus to King Eurystheus, where King Eurystheus proceeded to hide in his jar again. Chapter 8, A Crispy Corpse. With all of the tasks completed, Heracles went on to do many other things. After a while, he met a woman named Deianira. A river god wanted to marry her, but Heracles wrestled him and married Deianira. While wrestling, some stories say that he broke off one of the god's horns and created the cornucopia, or horn of plenty. One day, a centaur named Nessus tried to kidnap Deianira, but Heracles shot him with his poisonous arrows. Deianira had been wondering if her husband was cheating, so before the centaur died, he told Deianira to take some of his blood and line the inside of Heracles' shirt with it. He told her it would act as a love potion, and Heracles would never leave her. Deianira took some of his blood and went to go smear it on her husband's shirt, because clearly the centaur that Heracles had just shot and killed would want to help, right? Deianira gave Heracles the shirt, but when he put it on, the poison from the arrows he had used to kill the centaur burned his flesh. Heracles tried taking off the shirt, but it didn't work. Heracles then built himself a funeral pyre, and then burned himself. Realizing that she had accidentally caused her husband's demise, Deianira ended her own suffering. Chapter 9, Godlyhood. It is said that when Heracles died, he was made a god. Apparently, when he burned himself to death, he burned away his mortal side. All that was left was his godly side. He became the god of strength and heroes. As a god, Heracles married Hebe. Like I said before, Heracles did a lot of stuff. I do want to include all of his feats in my episodes, but maybe just not this one. Anyways, I'm your host. This is Hellenic. See you next time.